Welcome to Figure Skating Land. My name is Jilly. I'm a neuropsychologist and figure skating fan. And I'm going to be walking you through what happened during the Grand Prix de France, as well as some figure skating news for the week. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. The Grand Prix de France was a wild ride. So spoiler alert, Amber Glenn won the women's event, which was amazing. The men mend like they have never mended before. The pairs event was less wild, though it had a splash of mending to it, to the point where I struggled to tune in. And the dance event didn't go as predicted, which was nice for a change, but it was so chaotic. And how can we forget the chaotic filming, especially during the pairs and ice dance? I just love when they zoom in on someone's face during a lift. There was actually at one point where I didn't even know that a lift got aborted. But anyway, let's get to it and let's talk about the Grand Prix de France. Let's start with the women's event. As y'all already know, Amber was the winner here, and I'm so beyond excited for her. This event helped us to get to have one of the most amazing reactions to a score ever, which was Amber and her coach when she got to 78.14. I love the reaction to that, and I love the reaction to the win when she won the Grand Prix overall. And as many of you guys know, this was the highest score for a U.S. woman, and she falls up in the top 10 short program scores. And so she had a 12-point lead from the short program, which is how she won this event overall. And the free program ended up feeling, though, as if it was really a fight for the bronze, because Sarah and Rion were only like a 10th of a point away from third place going into the free program. And so going back to Amber Glenn, all of the work that she's been putting into her mental and physical health is really showing. So she's been open about all the struggles of skating with ADHD. And as someone who is also on Team ADHD, it is so refreshing and validating to hear someone talk about ADHD in a realistic manner. Unfortunately, ADHD in the media since 2020 has been, as I feel, kind of romanticized and inaccurately portrayed. And while yes, we should be, putting more awareness out there, it has kind of turned into this LOL, I have ADHD for everything moment. And so it really is kind of good to see, or kind of refreshing to hear someone kind of talk about the struggles and talk about how they overcome it. And so Amber, because of her difficulty with staying focused, Amber and her team have worked on the layout of her programs and as well as methods for her to be able to stay focused in her programs. And another thing that I've really liked to hear is how Amber has told the media that she's been working on being kinder to herself. And I know that she also on Instagram will share a lot of affirmations, and I've keep thinking, I bet those are affirmations that she's also using with herself. So Amber oozed confidence in the short program. It was so apparent that she went out there and it felt like she knew she was going to command the entire Grand Prix. So she opened up with her signature triple axel, and it made me really, really, really proud of her to find out later after the competition that she didn't land this during practice, because that means that is such a huge hurdle for her to overcome, to where she didn't land her signature jump, her most consistent jump, and she still was able to go in a competition and land it. She didn't get in her head. She knew she could land it, and she did. And it's also wild to think about how the triple axel is her most consistent jump. Also in the program, she did a triple toe, and there's been some debate online if it was under, but regardless, it was not marked under. She also did this really beautiful triple loop, and I love her kind of leap out of it. And it's also important to note that her tech score here was higher than all but 3 of the men in their short program. I felt this program was really well rounded. I think the first time I watched it, I think it was Lombardia, I felt like, okay, there could have been some more things added to it, but I felt this time around it was very well done. There was a lot of transitions. She had such amazing musicality in it. She also had so much speed going into her jumps, and also she just had this expression through the whole thing that's like, I am Amber Glenn, and I am doing this Janet Jackson song, and I am awesome, and I just loved everything about that. And for her free program, she made me so proud in this event. She was such a fighter in the free program, and she showed so much mental strength and fortitude here. Because in the past, she has either lost focus after a mistake or after the step sequence, and then that would result in a lot of popping. But no, not this time around. She fought hard, and she was able to make it through the program with no pops. And what happened was she opened up the program with a triple axel, and she had her hand down and a step out. But then she completed multiple jumps without errors, though she did fall on her triple flip, and then she put her foot and hand down for the triple loop. But everything was a level 4, except she did get a level 3 step sequence and combo spin. I also felt here that she was also able to continue performing. In the past, you could kind of see that the performance aspect get lost whenever she's made mistakes, but here she was still tuned in. Like, you didn't see her in the past. You could see her beating herself up, and it was so obvious. Not this time around, and if she did a great job hiding it. And so overall, I'm so proud of Amber Glenn, and I cannot wait to see how her next assignment goes. And now on to the silver medalist, Wakaba Higuchi. She now qualifies for the Grand Prix finale after this event, so congratulations to her. I loved both of her programs. The free program has really grown on me. In the short program, she opened up with this beautiful and huge double axel, and her hands and her arm positions on the land are so uniquely and elegantly done. And so she ended up with an under on her triple toe, and that was part of her triple loop combo. She received an exclamation mark and a Q on her triple flip. Regardless, I am always on team Wakaba could be scored higher. And I enjoyed this program, and I felt that like she came more to life after she was done with her jumps. And so hopefully kind of as time goes on, we could see her throughout the whole program enjoying it. But I completely understand, like, most times you're just probably wanting to get the jumps done and it's harder to relax. But still, I mean, she's still such a performer. That's like a very small nitpicky thing for someone so awesome. And so she won the free program overall. And the first time I watched this program, I didn't know how I felt about it, but now I really loved it. It was beautiful. It was a masterpiece. She was so powerful in it. So she had a couple jumps that were called on a quarter. However, her jumps, regardless of whatever they're called, her flow into the jumps are so remarkable. And everything with her jumps feels so pristine. So her PCS was 68.57. It should have been so much higher. I don't understand. Why can't they just make her PCS match? In fact, some of the concerns about her have been that she is expressionless. But in this program, I really felt like she took us on this journey and had us wrapped in of her going up that damn hill. And I love how absolutely everything is choreographed with thought down to her hands. And her step sequence with her hands afterwards are just so amazing. And I am so proud and excited to see her make it to the final. And so she mentioned in an interview, though, which is something that's kind of interesting to me, is that she's actually more worried about the Japanese nationals, which shows you how much depth is in this field in Japan. And in third place was Rion, who's also from Japan. So she managed to jump from 5th place to 3rd place. I believe that she was the only skater to receive maximum levels on all non-jump elements in both the short program and the free program. She's another one that I feel like she can have higher PCS. So like her musicality, her skating skills, and carriage are just amazing. But I don't feel like these scores are reflected in both of her programs. I also love that she chooses unique programs and music for both of her competitions, or like programs to be exact. So the mistake on her flip put her out of the security of being in the top 3 for the short program, but I was still mesmerized by her skating skills in the short program. Like, she just flows into every element, and her short program dress is also one of my favorites, but also her free program dress is one of my favorites, although I don't know if that dress screams I'm a plant growing. So for the free program, she had a quad toe attempt that was downgraded in 2-footed landing. So part of me was thinking, oh my gosh, you didn't need that quad, because that mistake took me away from the program a little bit. However, I do also miss having the ultra C elements in women's skating and kind of pushing and elevating the field. I feel like now there's not a whole lot of push and drive. And so if we could just elevate it just a splash. But I know we also don't want to get into the pattern of people injuring themselves. So it really is just this kind of double-edged sword. She also does tend to slow down a bit before she goes to the quad. And I'm not quite sure what's behind that because the rest of her jumps seem to have this appropriate speed. And she also did have a little bit of shaking landing in her jumps, but regardless, her triples in the second half just seemed effortless. And she's another one that I love how everything is choreographed with thought down to her hands. Her step sequence and also her hands afterwards are just amazing. That being said, it does seem as if though she lost some stamina towards the end of the free program, but that will likely be improved as time goes on. And I also believe she's medaled at all of her senior Grand Prix assignments so far. And so we'll see her again at the Cup of China and see how this goes in terms of her winning streak and the Grand Prix finale and the Grand Prix final. And I also want to talk about Chaeyeon Kim. I was really surprised that she ended up in 4th place. She had such an uncharacteristic fall on the triple toe that was part of her combo, and that fall looked and sounded painful too. And her jumps just had lots of calls. So she's been in a ton of competitions though. So she's already been to Shanghai Trophy, a challenger, and a competition to qualify for the Asian Games. So she is going to essentially need to win her next Grand Prix in order to qualify for the final. And it was just kind of unfortunate here. Like, I love her flow and her skating skills, and her transitions for her jumps are to die for. I felt like, with Shanghai, her musicality and expression had improved. For here, it wasn't as pronounced, but that also probably happens when you do like 9 million competitions. So regardless though, we have to really hand it to her because she's such a versatile skater. Like, she can do a powerful short program and a slower paced free program. So overall, we're just going to see kind of how the rest of the season goes for her. And if any of the other Grand Prix are like this one, then who knows? Maybe she could win and make it. And I also wanted to talk about Sarah Everhardt. She had a very exciting Grand Prix debut, but I honestly felt like maybe she was a tiny bit underscore. Like, when I looked through her protocols, I could see that she's had many jump calls, which makes sense. But I think she does this really amazing job of her choreography and, sticking to the theme. But what really kind of elevate her is if she did some more emote. So for example, she puts so much energy and power into her step sequence into the river dance. So imagine if she were to somehow get the audience in, like bring us all in with like a look of excitement towards the audience, or even like a I'm dancing this Irish jig type of acknowledgement towards the crowd. And on a side note, I also love the knee slides that she does in this short program, and also her transition out of her double axel in the short program is amazing. But anyway, also wanted to note that like she also is very good at encompassing a bird in her free program. The arm movements and her hands. What though would really make this amazing, like I said earlier, if there were just more emoting, like maybe if there was like Gracie Gold's fierceness slammed a little bit into her program. But all these things will likely improve over time, and also she only had 2 weeks to prepare for this. So overall, this was a really good first outing for her, and I do hope she gets some more assignments over time. So Nina came in 6th place. And I feel so heartbroken for her for this outing because she used to be so consistent, and there just seems to be somewhat of a block now. So despite all those jumping mistakes she makes and kind of the interesting theme for the free program that we can't quite get, I really do love both of her programs. And I actually feel like she may be one of my favorite skaters. Something that has really stood out to me this season though is she's starting to slow down a bit before her jumps, and then she'll look right behind her with like every single jump. And I don't recall her doing that in the past, especially to look behind. I don't know if that's new or if that was somehow something that I missed. And in the short program, she did seem a little bit slower. Though for the free program, I did feel like she had a little bit more speed going into her jumps. So she mentioned in an interview afterwards that she felt like she had possibly put pressure on herself because she did so well last year at the Grand Prix. And so that makes a lot of sense, because I kept wondering, is this some kind of mental block? And it is possible, kind of based upon her responses. She did say that her goal is to do well at Europeans, and that she is also hoping, to do well with the Worlds. And she mentioned, unfortunately, the last 2 Worlds didn't go well for her. I remember at last year's Worlds, she was having problems with nosebleed. There was even a delay of her getting out on the ice, and I was looking forward to seeing her so much, but she did not skate that well that day. I hope her team is working with her though on some of these mental blocks that I feel like just seems to be uncharacteristically really happening for her this year. And I must say though, hearing Mark's description of her free program honestly made me laugh really loud awkwardly to myself. And also Maia came back. She was in 7th. She had a stress fracture. All I want to say is that I really love how much joy she had in the program whenever she landed her jumps. That just made me smile so much. And so hopefully she's fully healed and ready to fully come back. And I also want to talk about Gubanova. I think I didn't pull a Ted on that one. And if so, I'm so sorry. It's late. But anyway, she came in 8th place. One thing I'm really concerned about, though, is her fan was shown on TV and he acted in such a way that Mark had wondered at first if that was her husband because he was so enthusiastic, and I'm pretty sure he said to either the camera or her or something like, "I love you." And there were also clips on her Twitter of her looking uncomfortable as he tried to speak to her when she was in the kiss and cry. So I really hope the ISU and her team are aware of this and helping keeping her safe because it just felt uneasy. So she has great musicality for both of her programs, but that being said, it is also obvious, and maybe something I didn't notice in the past, or maybe it wasn't as bad in the past, that she is kind of in her head the entire time until she's finished with her jumps. And even then, like, you know how some skaters will come to life afterwards? She doesn't fully. Like, she still seems that she's back in her head. And so hopefully she's going to be able to work her way back up to performing the way she did in the past when she won Europeans. And before I wrap up the women, I want to mention how much I love that Clemence got to perform at the Grand Prix in France when she used to leave school early to watch this competition. So that made my day, and like hopefully she has more of these experiences as time goes on. And so now on to the men. Like, where do we even begin? The men mend to the 90th power. Like, they mend like they have never mended before. In fact, it felt like the room of men's performances for those of you who have watched that movie. We had Adam as a winner who just simply traded places with Boyang. And none of the skaters who were in the top 3 after the short program were in the top 3 after the... And I do know that many of the men were recovering from injuries here, may explain what we witnessed, but oh my God. So Adam magically pulled an Adam and came far down to higher place. And so he apparently only had about 5 weeks to prepare for this event. And he also apparently broke his boot right before this as well. And what's also wild when you kind of think about all this is he ended up winning this event with the lowest score of his Grand Prix so far with a 246. And so I have mixed feelings about his short program. I love that so many skaters this year, or mainly he and Ilya, are not following the same predicted type of songs and programs. Though I really did feel like this one was kind of empty. So it wasn't so much the music. Parts of it just felt a little empty, but it might grow on me as the season goes on. He also apparently has 2 short programs, so I could totally see where someone might get bored and want to just change things up. But I also wonder how this could help him with remaining consistent in terms of both the jumps and the performance. And so he had 2 falls and his sit spin was invalidated, and it just wasn't a great outing for him. And he also had a real hoodie on for this program. So after seeing the hoodie get in the way, I can see why Ilya has his like spray painted on. And so he mentioned in an interview that they're going to be working on changing this costume, which will be a good idea. What is good to note is, like, in his short program, he said he did add a 3rd jump in at the second half, which is new for him. And he mentioned that he is hoping to have a more balanced program. So for his free program, I liked it, but I also think that maybe I've been spoiled, or we've been spoiled, of having him do more unique programs in the past. And it's just like he's doing another Doom program, although his is unique. I mean, I really was not prepared for him to die and then twitch his way back to life mid-program. So kudos to him, because no one could have expected that. And I haven't watched Dune, and honestly, I don't know if I can like sit through it just because of my team, you know, ADHD, as I mentioned earlier. But does someone die in it? Like, is he acting out a death? Does someone die and come back to life? Who knows? But anyway, with this program, like, he opened up with a beautiful quad Lutz right on the music. And so I do think, even though I was like bitching about it not being a unique program, it's at least unique for Dune, and it has, of course, the Benoitness, which I'm a fan of Benoit stuff, and I do think Adam and Benoit, like their quirky hybrids together, is just like a beautiful thing. And then in second place was Koshiro. So this is apparently his first senior Grand Prix medal, which may explain some of why Stefan was hugging him the way he was. I've read a whole lot on Twitter and a whole lot on Reddit, and I kind of just don't know what to think at this point. I think my brain is mush from this event, and like so many thoughts come to my head. So like weigh in at what you think about it. Leave a comment, start a battle. I don't know. Just kind of let me know your thoughts. But anyway, so for his short program, like the music isn't that exciting to me. Like it kind of is one of those things that just kind of drones. But he skated it so beautifully. And I love his flow and his glide on the ice. And for his free program, I don't know how I feel about the music as well. But I do kind of like that he golfs himself out. Like if he could just somehow golf some more and make it more exciting, that'd be cool. But regardless, like I love his spins for both of his programs. Those are just beautiful spins. And so I'm interested to see how he does with the rest of the season and just overall just how he does. I'm also curious to see how he does next year at a less chaotic Grand Prix event. In Skate America, he came in 6th. But anyway, moving on to the Pizza King Andrew. So he also ended up with his first Grand Prix medal. I didn't expect this, especially since I felt like he was criminally underscored a bit in his programs. And so I'm just really happy for him. Like I absolutely love his short program. So glad he brought it back. He does really well with a very powerful program. Like the power suits him. He opened up his program, a short program, with a huge quad toe. That was wonderful. He did have that hilariously random fall mid-program. Like I was doing something for work and looked away and suddenly I'm just like, he fell. And I thought, okay, had to be a jump, had to be something, but nope, just randomness. And so regardless, his step sequence in that program is so powerful. And even though he just had the rando fall, like he did it amazingly. And he is someone else that, you know, we could just see it higher on the PCS train. I also didn't expect to see Brandon in to kiss and cry with him. And watching them bro out was just so endearing. And so his free program isn't my favorite style for him. I feel like he just does much better of having, you know, strong, powerful programs. Regardless, though, I can say this and still think that he was underscored in that program. Though it's also hard to tell because there are times where I think he was one of them. Camera zoomed in funny. And so he could have like under rotated a jump. Who would know? Who would know how his spins were thanks to the camera? But anyway, let's just hope that the Pizza King can keep up this momentum. And so the rest of the men's programs, I'll be honest, it just feels like a chaotic blur to me at this point. What we did get to see is Mikhail do the first triple axel and quad toe combination ever. It was just so anticlimactic for the audience and Mark. Like, and even it seems like the judges, like, I don't know what happened. Like, I thought maybe everyone would go wild. Maybe they thought it was a triple. Who knows? But maybe they didn't notice it. Maybe by that point they were all just broken. But he was also underscored. And I read so many different things about how things were called incorrectly for him. So I'm just surprised that that much chaos went into scoring for him. And I also wanted to bring up Camden. He just really needs to do less sleepy programs. I think his free program is better than his short. I don't know what he does. I don't know if he Googles like modern ballad song that makes you want to sleep and cry. I just don't know, but it doesn't seem like it fits with him. Of course, I'm not really honestly sure what his theme is. Like, I do know that he has a full-time job and he skates, but this might be a result of that. But I also know he has just struggled with consistency for years. I do worry though it's going to get worse, and so he may have to make a very difficult decision if he's thinking about the Olympics. Although, to be honest, I'm not quite sure who all for the men would be a contender for the Olympics. We know Ilya will probably, unless something way out of our control or his control, happens, and hopefully Jason, but I don't know who the third could be. And so that was the men's event. There was so much more, but I feel like I really can't convey just the existence of what was the men's event. And then now on to the ice dance, which was a wild ride, and placements went how we did not expect them to go. So the surprise here was Evgenia and Jeffrey. So they came in first place, and they seemed so stunned by their win. And it was actually pretty endearing, just kind of their reactions. It was also endearing hearing somebody with like Moscow accent speak and kind of actually a splash of Montreal speak French, and it made me fangirl her even more. But anyway, so their free program was fantastical as always, though they did seem to be worn out a bit towards the end, which made their slide look a little messier. But they were also just recently in a different time zone, and it made me laugh because my husband has like kind of the worst memory for skaters. But he walked in, noticed him, and said, "Those are the really good people." And because he was just talking about them and amping them up, so he was excited to see them win. So make it the world's, so I can drag him to the ice dance portion. So probably the biggest surprise was Marco and Charlene came in second, and though they came in fifth for their free dance. So I'm still having so much trouble enjoying this free dance. At first I thought, okay, like maybe it's the costumes, maybe I'm being shallow, but no, the costumes make this really over the top campy feeling. And to be honest, that's kind of why I avoided ice dance for so long as a fan of figure skating, because I would like tune on a TV and there'd be like an Aboriginal costume, or there would just be so many over the top programs that it really took me a while to get into ice dance. And so I think that is why it's just hard for me to really tune into this. So their program just seemed, the free dance, just seemed off from start to finish. So it was interesting because they had their first lift and it didn't go well. And I thought, that doesn't look right. But of course, the camera was zoomed weird. So how could we even know? And then Mark made this sound that really clued us in, like, yep, this isn't going right. And I think at first they got, positive GOE for it. And I just checked the protocol. And actually, yeah, they still received positive GOE for it. But it was enough to make Mark go, whoa, or some kind of sound. So their fall was unexpected. But honestly, even before the fall happened, they were already felt like they were pulled out of their program, and they were no longer even doing the over the top like robot-y sounds, not sounds, but robot-y moves. And so I think that's why this was even more of just a miss for me. And they also received a deduction for the costumes, which I'm not sure how or why, but that kind of makes me laugh. It's almost like the judges like hate the costumes, taking away points. And Bryant and Somerville, they came in third, which was a surprise. Like, they did get to have their redemption skate. So I've been reading a lot about kind of how they're a mismatched partnership. And so I do agree, like, he's an amazing skater. Like, his edges, just everything is beautiful. But I do think that he and Bryant just match each other though really well. Like, they're able to go in unison. And so all that being said, like, their program, to be honest, is kind of blah for me. It's nice, but I just feel like it just kind of drones on and on. And so I feel like maybe after just watching him actually skate at the Summer Sizzler, like maybe they would do better with something just much more speed and excitement. And before I also round out talking about the ice dance, I also wanted to talk about what I saw them nicknamed online as Salison, so from Lithuanian. So I absolutely love their free dance with the puppeteer and puppet master. Like, at first I thought, oh, another Black Swan program will come to us, but no, such a cool concept. I was surprised by how low it was scored. Trying to kind of go back and see why, not 100% sure why. And so hopefully this isn't like a message getting sent out to them, but just kind of shall see as time goes on kind of how each of their events go. I can't wait to see this again, and I hope I get to see it in person. And so that is it for the ice dance. Like, I felt like maybe I was a little bit stunned after it. And now on to the pairs, and I'm gonna be completely honest here. Yes, I watched this, but when I tried to go back and look at the notes I took during pairs program, all I could find was weird glitter and weird spot, like weird gold glitter. So I think maybe like I was just so kind of done with chaos that maybe it removed me a bit from the pairs program, which also felt like they mend as well. So it's not like everything was wonderful and my brain just shut off. No, it was chaotic too. And in first place was Minerva and Nikita. Oh my gosh, they are so awesome. So they came in gold here. They saved a day after such an event. And they are so strong as a pairs team that it still surprises me that they are fairly new. So they have so many amazing lifts. Like, there's this one where I think he's like one-footed and like holding her with one arm, and it is just a wild lift and so cool. I don't like her free program dress. That was the note I made. It looks like she just kind of rolled around in her butt in like glitter, but only for like, yeah, it's like only around like maybe her butt. Like, I don't know. It's just random. Like, it was so cool during Nebelhorn and not as elegant here. One thing I did notice is they were speaking German to each other, and it was like the kiss and cry during the interview, which is, or maybe it's just the kiss and cry, which makes me hopeful hopeful that, he's still working towards getting his citizenship, because I would love to see them at the Olympics. And in second place was Sarah and Nikolaj. So they came in second here. I'm still surprised they were able to skate so well despite their history. So I'll just be honest, their free program music made me sigh. So it's actually, this was the second note I wrote down too, was might be okay if it was muted. I must have been so just out of it at that point. But anyway, so they mentioned in an interview that they were surprised they got called for an under rotation on their Salchow and only received a level 2 on a depth spiral because they didn't even notice it in the moment. So that is something now I kind of want to go back and see if I can figure out like why they would have gotten a level 2 on their depth spiral. I also read recently that their shared dog passed away, and that broke my heart and made me want to go like goo my doggies. Oh, I hate that for them. But it's also really cool that they can get along so well. And in third place was Rebecca and Filippo. So their short program music, it really isn't the best vehicle for them. They had like mistakes in it, and her jump technique, I don't even know what to think about at this point. And their free skate, I liked it a little bit better, but it's also hard because they're doing Dracula, and it really makes me feel like it's like I cannot compare it to Deanna and Max's interview at the vampire program. And also I wanted to talk about was Alicia and Misha. They had such a disappointing rough skate for them. They made so many mistakes in the free program. I didn't expect any of it, and it broke my heart because I really felt like they were either going to medal or be close, and I know they're really wanting to make it to Worlds. And I am cracking myself up because I know last week I'm like, I'm going to get more detailed. But I cannot begin to tell you how much my soul left my body at some point during this competition. So unfortunately, that's like the most brief pairs program notes ever. But I just had to be cleansed after. It's like I didn't even watch figure skating. Like usually I watch, I'm going to go back and watch. But somehow my brain was just like, no, you need a break from this. So why don't you watch people do food challenges instead? I do not even want to know how my fantasy team went this week. Like, I should have probably screenshot it so I know, but I'll just kind of wait and be surprised. There's my Skate Canada one, as you can see, clearly winning as usual. So Celine and Marco ended their partnership, and he wrote some very touching things about her on his Instagram. And so I'm just hoping she's still getting lots of support, and hopefully, what she had been through hadn't kind of drew her out of the field, but also I could see why that would. And the more things that come in, the more difficult it is, honestly, to love the sport, knowing there's just so much behind the scenes. And hopefully things will change and that there will be more consequences for shitty behavior. Fear and Gibson outdid themselves this year for Halloween, so I don't know how they're going to top this. And Ilya was added to this event, and I'm so excited because I bought the tickets way before it was announced because it's only a 5-hour drive for me. And then when it got announced, I got so excited. So I will be vlogging this event, and vlogging figure skating events is actually my passion. Like, I enjoy doing this, but that is just something I really, really, really love to do. So I'm so excited for that. All right, y'all. Thank you for staying with me throughout this Grand Prix de France discussion, and tune in next week for me to go over NHK, and fingers crossed that it is less of a chaotic event. And see y'all next time, and hit subscribe and like.